Hello and welcome back to the Knitting Page channel. If you're new here, my name's Paige and I am the face behind the Knitting Page. Today I am coming at you from Montreal, Quebec, where I am here to run a half marathon tomorrow. It is currently Friday, April 25th. It is the day before the race. I just flew here. I just went to go get my bib and now I am sitting in a park knitting and I'm a little nervous. This was the first time in my running career that I've ever flown alone and traveled to a race. I went to university on a cross-country and track and field scholarship, so every time I traveled to a race, it was alongside my teammates. This trip was both exciting and nerve-wracking. Part of every race experience is going to pick up your kit, and so I navigated the Montreal subway system to go and take me to pick up my kit for the Montreal 21K. I first went into the wrong line, but because I registered as an elite, they had my bib separate with my first name on it, which was super exciting. So good morning. It is the day of the race. I have got my speed beads in. I gotta do my hair still. I gotta throw on some mascara. I'm feeling the least congested that I felt all week today, so yay, that's a win. I am still incredibly nervous, but that is okay. I just need to remind myself that it is just running. And today's also local yarn store day. So I'm excited to go check out some yarn stores here in Montreal. And I'll keep you posted. I am gonna have my dino eggs for breakfast, so let's go do that. Dino eggs are a childhood classic and have been my go-to pre-race breakfast. Another thing I've been doing pre-race this season is using my Q2 mini massage gun by Bob and Brad. It helps loosen up my muscles before running hard. The Montreal Half Marathon, also known as 21K de Montreal, is a half marathon race that takes place on Notre Dame Island in the middle of the St. Lawrence. It's a pretty special race. It's very flat and it's not a looped course, which sometimes looping can be hard mentally when you run. As you can see, it was a wet and rainy day, and this was the first time I have ever raced a road half marathon. Let's go, babe. No. In this moment, all I could think about was how cold my legs were and not the fact that I was running on the F1 racetrack. This was a crazy race in the sense that it was the first ever race that I had run where my legs just got so cold it felt like they couldn't move because of the wet and rainy conditions. Alrighty, I have made it back home. I am showered and I am going to go head to brunch. I have my Maggie cardigan packed in my purse and I'm also going to go check out some yarn stores. I'll do a little race review later on because I want to go get some food to go refuel. So I am currently on the bus heading to La Bobonnaise to check out a store for local yarn store day. La Bobonnaise is located in a fairly central part of Montreal and it was super easy to get to using their public bus system, which I had purchased a unlimited weekend pass for. La Bobonnaise is a shop that I have ordered from online, but I have never had the privilege of going to in person. It was also local yarn store day, so they had a deal where if you found one of the little hidden sheeps around the shop, you got a discount on your purchase. Montreal is one of my favorite cities to explore, and there's so many different cool aspects of it. The next stop on the local yarn store day was to go to Les Laines Biscot. I did a poll on my Instagram, which is also the Knitting Page, for yarn store suggestions, and this was one that so many of you suggested. This is like a cashmere sock yarn, so we might get some of that, but I'm gonna look for I'm gonna look for scant sock yarn over here on local yarn store day. Okay, so I've got my melted ice cream cardigan, and I need to find some buttons to go for it. By the way, this is the Maggie cardigan, part of my spring plans. If you didn't watch that video. So we gotta find some buttons. Black. I don't know. I'm kind of digging the brown. I feel like this is the winner. Right here. Perhaps. Like, look at that. The melted ice cream. The button. I feel like that's so cute. Now, the question is, do they have enough? To see what size button I need, but I think this like pearly guy is gonna be the winner. Thankfully, they had enough buttons in stock, and so I wound up picking up 6 of those, as well as a skein of sock yarn that I'm hoping to knit a summer top out of.
Alrighty, so we just finished at Les Lambisco. Could definitely be butchering that. Probably am, but I picked up some buttons for my cardigan, and I also picked up some sock yarn, and I think I'm leaning towards making a tank top with the sock yarn. I don't know, I feel like the burgundy color would be really nice for fall, and I'm thinking if I do like the June top by Petite Knit, there'll be a good transition piece that I can wear in the summer, but then also in the fall as like a cute little layering piece. Or there's also this one shirt by Friday Knits that's like this one shoulder top that I feel like would be like such a nice going out top. That's like mature yet sophisticated, and I feel like in this burgundy color it would just be oh so cute. And so we'll see what I end up doing, but it was such a cute store. I'll definitely throw in some real stuff if I haven't already. But yeah, that's it for the yarn stop shops for today. We're now heading to the train station, and then I'm going out for dinner with my running friends. So, and then later tonight I want to do like a little race recap because your girl ran hard this morning.
I find there's something so special about going to Montreal as a Canadian. It feels almost like you're stepping into another country due to a different language. I was having so much fun exploring, being a tourist, and walking around the city while also taking out my knitting at as many opportunities as I possibly could. I didn't get much footage of the rest of the time that I spent in Montreal, but it was Sunday morning and I had to fly back to Halifax so I could continue to teach and work on Monday morning. I always think it's fun navigating a new airport and seeing what they have to offer. Hello, it's been about a week and a half since I raced my half marathon, and I have a new mic that has arrived that I was waiting for to arrive before I filmed this kind of like post-race reflection. So hopefully this improves the audio quality, because I was realizing when I was in Montreal that when I was trying to do some of these candid videos, I think a mic would have been a little useful for being able to hear me over the road noise or just being out in the city. So let's try that this upcoming weekend when I go to New Brunswick to race a 5K. But before I get into that, I want to talk about my race. So since moving to Nova Scotia, I've really been trying to hone into being this multifaceted person, being a teacher, being a knitter, being a runner, and just trying to live authentically as myself, creating space for this athletic, professional, and academic, as well as athletic self that I've kind of always tried to honor throughout my life. I'm also planning to turn the knitting page into keeping it mainly a knitting account, but also embedding these other parts of my life into it. And so this was a little video where I got to do both. So let's talk about the race. I have grown up running for basically my entire life, but I really got into long distance running when I was in about grade 10, grade 11, and I wound up going to university to compete as a varsity athlete at Lakehead University for the cross country and track and field program. I then went to Queen's, where I also competed with them. Due to an eligibility rule, I couldn't compete for them, but I trained basically as a varsity athlete. I then took last year off when I got my first teaching gig and mostly focused on my career with the goal of landing a full-time teaching job, which I did. And so once moving to Halifax, I was like, you know what? I'm going to join the Halifax Roadhammers, and I'm going to take this seriously. Not seriously in the terms of being obsessive about it, but seriously in that this is a large part of my life that I do miss and I really enjoy, and I want to make time and space and capacity for training at a level. I also kind of want to model continuing on as a female athlete for my female students, because I do think there needs to be some more representation of that. So anyways, trained this whole summer, this fall, kind of was taking that time in those seasons with a fun approach. And it was show up, do a couple races, but I didn't really want to talk about paces. I didn't want to talk about plans. I didn't want to talk about goals. And then I kind of got the goal bug. And a lot of my friends, they were all training for halves or full marathons. Prior, I was mostly a short distance girl. And I was like, you know what? I want to do a half marathon in the spring. That's going to be my goal. And we'll just kind of see what happens. It's my first official half. We'll see what happens. I have raced a couple trail halves in the past, both in Thunder Bay and this past summer here in Nova Scotia, but I've never put the shoes to pavement and just to see how fast I could run. So had a bit of a rocky training block, yet also was consistent throughout the winter and this early spring. I got strep throat, I was sick, I took a nasty fall on ice when I was cycling to work that led to a couple bumps in my training plan, but overall, I can insert a picture here. I was fairly consistent in showing up, putting in a long run workout, putting in the midweek workout, and doing the best to run with my buddy Luna, who's over here, who's my go-to easy run buddy. And I also was like, you know what? For reference, I'm at a semi-elite, kind of tier B running level where I can get elite entry into races. And so I looked at some races, and what worked out the best for my budget and for timing was to go to Montreal to race a half marathon, and then to go to Fredericton, New Brunswick to race an elite 5K, which is upcoming this weekend. So part of my plan of being able to manage everything is to be on top of recovery. So I'm currently coming to you from my yoga mat. I was doing a little bit of stretching and activation prior to my easy run that I am about to go on. But another part of my recovery routine is to have, I've got my foam roll, and I also have my newly acquired massage gun. So this massage gun is from Bob and Brad. They are these two physios that post here on YouTube that can answer your questions and kind of give you information on the plethora of injuries that you may face. For me, my injuries are mostly running related, whether it's IT band syndrome, whether it's an Achilles issue. Right now, I just have really tight glutes. And so they reached out. I don't think they knew I was an athlete. Maybe they did. But offering me a massage gun and sponsoring this video. And I was like, what a great opportunity. I actually want to take the knitting page and talk about these other aspects of my life. And I have this race coming up. And thankfully, the massage gun arrived right before my race. And so I was able to take it with me on this trip. This is the Q2 Mini by Bob and Brad. It comes in this cute little sleek little case that has your massage gun as well as the 5 different heads that you can use for your massage gun. I've been using this religiously since I got it. I have used massage guns in the past, and I actually have one that I purchased from Princess Auto, and I really don't like it because I find the strength isn't really comparable to some of the other massage guns I've used, which is the Theragun. But I find that Bob and Brad does a really good job at, when I used it, I was like, this stuff is good. And I've been using it every day since getting it, and my body has been recovering fairly well. I did a workout last night in preparation for this 5K where things went fairly smoothly. And it's been really nice to have a product that I want to back and support from a very honest and authentic place. It's funny, I was in the airport in Montreal, and there was also this yoga conference at the time, and I was wound up plopping myself down in the middle, surrounded by all these women that had just attended this yoga conference. And I was super sore from the race because during the race, it poured rain. And when I say pour, I mean pour. Every time I stepped, it was wheat, 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 wheat. My legs got cold, and I finished the race just shivering. And ideally, you don't want your body to get cold while you are running, but I've ran in rain before and I've raced in rain. But prior to racing the halves, the longest I'd really ran and raced was maybe 10 kilometers, but usually 5K or less on the track or on the roads. And so within 5K, my body doesn't really have the opportunity to get cold, but during this race, my legs got cold. And after finishing, I kind of talked to some of the other people that ran, and I was like, my body just didn't really recover. My legs were super sore, my hips were super tight, my quads were super tight. And they were same. And this never happens. And I think it's because of the cold. We just got so cold and then tightened right up, and we're just shivering to try to get our bodies to come up. And the massage gun has been really good. Prior to racing, I would need this massage gun. Let me just get it out. So I'm going to use just like the circular foam headpiece, but you just screw it on. Prior to the race, I was using this at the highest level, and I felt like I had to do that in order to, like, it just, that's what felt good. After the race, all I could tolerate was the low level. And so this does have 5 different ranges on it, which I find useful depending on if you've worked out hard the day before, if you've raced the day before. It's nice to have the opportunity to kind of do what different muscle sets need. But I ran the race. I was the 8th woman overall out of 1,247 women that competed in the half marathon. I ran a time of 1:23:04, which was about where it was, like, honestly a little bit slower than where I think my fitness is at. But I got sick the week before. I had this nasty cough. And I knew I was sick because when I get sick, I get like this like bad inflammatory response where it basically gets like sciatica. And so 123 was about where I wanted to go. It was a 357 average, but because of the race being super wet, there was oftentimes puddles, there was a little bit of mud, and I kind of found myself weaving and bobbing through this course. And my watch time said I was going 354, which meant I ran a little bit longer than a half marathon, which when I think back and reflect on the race that I ran makes sense because I was kind of weaving and bobbing. I have watched Bob and Brad since I was a high school athlete, and them reaching out was like a little bit of a fangirl moment. But I've been super pleased with this massage gun. I have brought it to practice and let my friends use it, and they're all like, Paige, this is great. I've shared it to those ladies at the airport. I've actually brought it to track practices at school where I'm coaching so that kids that are also feeling a little banged up can use it. So it's gotten used by myself every day, and then it's also gotten used by some of my peers and my friends. And I'm just very excited to have this little guy in my toolkit. It fits super nicely in my carry-on bag going to Montreal. The one thing I would suggest is taking it out of its case and not having it go through the airport security like scanning machine because of the large battery. It got flagged the first time through, but the second time when I took it out, my bag didn't get flagged. So that would be one thing if you're planning to travel with it that I would suggest. And yeah, you can, well, I used it before my race. I used it after my race. I've been using it mostly every day since. I've done a lot of long run workouts in this build-up, and I was a little bit shocked on how poor my legs felt post-race, but I'm feeling pretty good for this upcoming race. But I'm super stoked to have Bob and Brad on the knitting page, and I've also used it for like my shoulders when they get tense with knitting. It does kind of shake my head as I can demonstrate, but it just feels so good.